Hello everybody and welcome back to Wappelville. Apologies that I missed my last live session on Friday. It was just some not fun things going on, but tonight we are going to have some fun. We got some Warcry figures here, but what's really fun is we've got these from AK Interactive. These are the 502 Abteilung Oil Paints, and I have several of them, and I want to give these a try. You can see them out on the palette here. I tried to keep these as close to There we go. Some of the old, well, not old, but my Mig AMMO Oilbrusher colors. Some of the same ones that you see. So that terracotta, and also here you've got some other similarities to things like this. You've seen me use the raw umber many times. You've seen me use the Payne's gray. So I tried to choose colors that mimic these because the best way to see if things are what you want them to be or if they're useful is you try and match them as much, just like contrast paints with the Reaper clears and liners. So you can see this blue is right here. What is this blue? Sky blue? No, blue green. Now consider this one here, the smoke. This is essentially the raw umber of the Abteilung range. There's a couple other colors that are pretty close, but we're going to give this one a shot. Brushes are going to be the same, but we're going to be needing a few more of these here. So you can see this one's already got some oil paints in there. Think of this one as the smoothing brush, and then you have other brushes that we use as our application brushes, and especially these beat up ones. These are handy for these initial stages. So here's something right here that's basically stage one. This is where I've taken things like the smoke. Maybe there's a dark field green color. This one, what is this one called? Field gray. German uniform, greenish gray. This is another one of my favorites from the oil brusher range. Oh, hey, thanks, Trevor. The test is good. We have a chat. Yay! And yes, I finally get to use these. Now let's say we advance it a little bit further. Now we've got something like this. You can see we're starting to pull out some of the major colors, and we've got, look at this even here, we got some green in the flesh tone. Now one thing that's going to happen, it's oil paint, it's wet paint. So you're going to see some of the shininess here of the lights reflecting on it. Nothing you can do about that. It's almost as if you were just doing something that was nothing but permanent glazes. Now here is one that's entirely done, and you can see I didn't do anything to this. This just dried naturally matte and flat, because that's another question I get with oils. We're going to be doing a lot of myth busting here tonight, so just be ready for that. So this, again, another thing that was painted in oils, and you can see is awful similar to this lad right here. You can see we got the greens here, those subtle little things in the skin tones, all kinds of fun stuff. Will this be dry enough for blood effects tonight? I'm thinking, well, no. But we'll discuss some of the properties of this as we work on it. Now I've got, like I said, some new ones like this that have nothing on them. Now I did do some oil work on a bunch of these because this is not the most thrilling thing to watch in the universe. So we're going to put out some of the smoke over here. I think I got some field green out there. I've got some blue. I am going to grab sepia. That's going to go over here. Now, think of this as more of a raw umber right here, and think of this as more of a yellow ochre. And let's get some of this out here just to make sure we've got some. Now, I will say this, that compared to the oil brushers and even my Winsor Newton oils, there's a little more fragrance to them. It's nothing overpowering, it's just there's a little more to it. Now, you see this cup over here. What is in here is this, and I realize the label's kind of beat up a little bit here, but see, it's from Speedball, Mona Lisa. This is an actual odorless paint thinner. Believe me, you get the cheap stuff, it says odorless paint thinner, it's going to melt your eyeballs in 5 seconds. So if you're going to splurge on that. I'm going to get this a little closer so I can use it You'll also probably be seeing me use these makeup sponges right here. Now I did have to put the brightness at certain settings here just to make it work with the shininess of the oils, and obviously we got this lighter primer. Now the skulls that you see on there, those are the GW skulls. Some of the other ones have skulls from Green Stuff World, and I'll point those out as we get to them. Now you saw I just took some of the, right here, a little touch of my, see how that just lets that flow? You will hear me say over and over and over again, and then when I think I haven't said enough, I'll say it again. You have to think of oils in a different way. Whereas with acrylics, whether you work thick or thin, it doesn't matter. As long as what's underneath is dry, and that's always, at least almost always, going to be the case. Not so much with oils. It's a different world. It's a little bit different. You have to think about how thick that paint is. You've got to always be aware, like right now, well, I'm working with a paint that's thicker. If I do this and get some of that, look what happens. Now that's almost a glaze right there. What that means is my next layer, if I want to stick to that, it better be some seriously thick paint. And I don't mean thick as in oil painting thick, where you put it on with a palette knife and it takes 2 weeks to dry, because that's the other myth I want to dispel. And I'll link some other oil painting sessions here via some end screens and maybe just some links in the description, so you can look for those, because I've done plenty of other oil painting sessions, plenty of them. You always have to think, okay, I put like this, thicker colored out, so my next layer should be thinner than this. And you can work kind of both ways. Let's say you start going thinner, thinner, thinner. Well, guess what? Then you can probably go back to a thicker layer. It's not a zero-sum game. And yes, you can even glaze oil paints over wet oil paints. You don't have to trust me. Just you go to those links or whatever, find my other videos, you will see that is the case. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up the sponge here to a few chunks like so. And you can see I've got a lot on here. What I'm going to do is take away some of it. Not all of it, but some. This is a little bit different than some of the earlier sessions where I just took, say, the Winsor Newton oils and took the white spirits that you saw and just basically turned them into a glaze. Almost like a contrast paint, believe it or not. And then I took the sponges and I went in and really took a lot of it away. Here I'm taking away less. We're not going to take away quite as much. Now, Trevor, he's seen some of the early ones. He knows. He's seen me go through 10, 15 sponges on one session. Here it's not going to be quite the same. Not going to be quite the same. Not taking away quite as much. I also worked a little bit drier, so you can see how there's some shading that's starting to happen here. And you say, well, okay, what's going to happen? Why this brown? Well, what happens is, with each of my subsequent layers, they start to mix with that brown. And it means that when I start to add, see, I added some greens to it and then some ochres. Well, that's blending in with that original brown. The same thing happened here. The whole point of oils, and I'll emphasize this again, is not that they are fantastic, say, only for blending. And they're good for that, for wet blending and such. They're good for busts, large figures, all that sort of stuff. But they're really handy. They're massively handy when you're doing whole units and armies. Because how many times have you been either interrupted or you just can only paint for so long and then you have to stop, and okay, you got a wet palette. Your paint stays dry on the palette, but yeah, on your figure you're done. You can't, there's no way to keep it wet on the palette. Oh, hey Peter, how's it going? Yeah, this is the the long-awaited oil painting session here. Again, using the AK Interactive Abteilung Oil Paints. And those of you that have seen the oil brusher videos, I have to say some of the colors here, they're not just, well, the same colors, but some of them are even called the same thing. Like, I believe Starship Filth is a color in both ranges. Now, the oil brushers, they have their advantage in that they come in these basically unbreakable sort of eyeliner or mascara type things, right? And you take the brush out of here, and they're really good for, say, traveling where you have to go somewhere, because they're kind of indestructible. Tubes of paint, obviously less so. Obviously not going to have that same level of durability. I'm actually looking around for cases right now. Carrying cases, I think the ones that'll work best, heck, even for the oil brushers too, are carrying cases for markers. So yeah, I'm looking for those, and I think those will do well. They're not expensive at all, 16, 17 bucks. It's not like I have a zillion of these things. Oh, and the base, by the way, here, that's Green Stuff World texture roller right there, with some GW skulls on the top of it. And you can see, this is why I'm using a beat up brush. Oh, Fruity Scone, how's it going? You bet. I have been itching for this. I was so bummed last Friday when, instead of doing this, I was basically sponging freezing cold water out of the basement, which is about as fun as it sounds. This right here, yeah, significantly more fun than that. Who'd have thought? Who would have thought? Now, spindly little guy like this, I gotta give him some support here. Gotta give him some support. Now, this is obviously from the starter set. Oh, what you got? The Raptorix, and then you have these guys. Are these the Harpies or whatever? No, they're not Harpies. There's Dark Elves have the Harpies. Now, you don't have to just stick with these colors right here. Let's say we take some of our field green over here. Let's just make that part of the mix now. Because those of you that have seen me work with, say, the Reaper Clear and Liner paints, you know that I'm constantly changing the color as I go along. As I do this initial layering of just this darker paint in here. You could do it as a lighter color, but with oils, it's generally best to do something like this. Because what happens is, as you apply your lighter colors, they start to mix with this, and you anticipate that. Now let's go in here with our sponge, and like I said, we're just going to take away some of this. We don't worry about lines or striations or anything like that right now. Not a big deal. All we're trying to do is get rid of some of the excess paint. Now, I did do some initial testing of these on some commission things that I can't show on camera, because I wanted to get the sense of, well, okay, is there any information that you guys need to know straight away? Like I said, I did notice that they can have a little bit of more of a smell to them than, say, the oil brushers. It kind of makes sense, because the oil brushers, and I can even show you those too, they're a little more contained. Here you just got a tube of paint, and you're kind of taking your tube of paint and squeezing it out on the palette. Which leads me to my next topic here, which is this palette. Keep it simple. It's a piece of cardboard, piece of parchment paper glued to it. That's all it is. The idea is that it absorbs some of the extra oil. Now, you probably can't really see it here, but by tomorrow you could probably see almost like a little outline of some of the oil. So that's what it's doing, is it's absorbing some of that extra oil. Just a bit of it. Now let's take this guy here. Now we're going to grab our other brush, and you can see that's why I love these craft brushes. Look at, we got a nice soft filbert brush. Check that out. What color do we want on this guy? Maybe we want some multiple colors here. What the heck? Let's take this field green over here. Let's start to have some fun. And I will have to probably turn this a few ways for you to see it. But now, what starts to happen, the green starts to blend with the color that's already there. And so we're doing a nice, soft stroke with that. Let's do it on the other side here too. Like this. We got a nice big old filbert brush. It's spread out real nice. Now, as you go on with the oil paints here, and you work through your miniature, you are going to want to not be doing as much of this. See where I'm going back and forth? Well, there, I'm trying to blend. Now, the other thing that's going to happen, this is not the best example right now because we're all working with dark colors. Oh, thanks. Thanks. It's just, boy, working with this stuff, it's like the easy button. Because you don't even have to think about blending. You don't have to be glazing back and forth and worrying about water lines or any crazy stuff like that. Look at it. I'm just mindlessly now starting to spread this green everywhere. Now let's say I want a warmer green on the underside. Well, we got a warmer green over here. Now look what's happening. It's now really infusing that paint into the brush. Alrighty then. And look at this. You can see how, yeah, there we go. We got it pointed away from the reflections. You can see how that initial color that I threw down there, you can see how it is being altered, modified, however you want to call it, by that initial glaze. And this is, imagine being able to wet blend your, on a mass scale, whole entire units of guys, space marines. What's the thing that people hate about space marines? All that organic, the round armor, the round shoulder pads, all the armor is round. Well, these wings are kind of round, and you can see how easy it is to just kind of blend away here, and it's pretty darn fast. Now this is actually here, this was done also in oils. This was part of my army painting series for the Patreon page, and I did a half a dozen of these Morgul Knights. And to give you a sense of how fast it was, the series was done in 4 episodes. That's normally a 5-episode enterprise. So in 4 episodes, I looked around and said, they're done. All I had to do was wait for things to dry a little bit, and then put a little bit of vegetation on there, right? And now this is the thing I don't know for sure, is how long does this stuff take to dry? Now the oil brushers, depending on how thin you apply them or whatever, those can be dry in a matter of hours. Believe it or not, 3-4 hours. Again, if it's thin enough, those bad boys could be dry. I would say give it more like 5, 6, 7 hours. But it is possible that I come back to these, let's say tomorrow or whatever, and a good portion of them are dry. That is yet to be determined. Now look here, look at this. It's just so easy to just get all these nifty little blends in here, which means you're going to be possibly more likely to try maybe some different color combinations. The color combinations are really easy to get. And here, my thumb palette, that's actually good paint. That'll be wet for a while. I can use that. So see how I wanted to do this because look at what's happening here. See how that's starting to get a little bit darker there? See how that's still the same color? So look, what I'm going to do is we're going to turn it over here. We're going to use that same side over here. But see that started to pick up the color that was already there. It's not bad or good. It's what happens, and you just want to be aware of that. most of this session, since I think a whole bunch of folks that are watching it are probably going to be new to the oils, I'm going to try and introduce it to you as best as I can with little digestible chunks. The reason why I'm doing multiple things here is because I just wanted to show the true use for oils. Because people say, well, why do you use those? They must look different. I said, no, they don't look different at all. Because if you look at my recent Instagram post, and I'll just, what the heck, I'll just show you the figures in a little bit. When I show you figures that were painted in the previous sessions, which you can watch, which were done in acrylics, well, guess what? They don't look anything different. And in fact, one of the reasons why what would you say, at the third one or the oil painting one was a different shape, or one of the grunts, is because I wanted to be able to tell which one the heck it was. They are that close. My French bolt action army, half of it was painted in, well, no, actually 2/3 of it was painted in acrylics. I still couldn't tell you which ones were painted in oils. I don't know. They look the same. But I do know is the ones in oils took way less time to paint. And by way less, I mean a lot less. Now, we are going to take some of this, it's kind of cerulean blue sky color here. I mixed it with my field green. Oh, Fruity Scone says, if only acrylics were that easy to blend. This is why I love the oils, because stuff like this, I mean, and take this as a bigger dragon. Let's say you got some huge dragon wings. What would you rather be blending? Acrylics here? Or something like this, where I just throw out some of this. Now I can do it one of two ways. I can have another brush here. Let's just find one let's go with something like this. So again, another brush. Set this up where hopefully you can see it. And now I'm just going to ever gently fade these together. So it's almost like pastels, charcoals. You will need a clean brush to do this, for obvious reasons, but look at this. See how you can just blend that in there? Just blends itself. Let's say I wanted to get more blue into this. Just grab some of this. And we're just going to pop that right in there. Because once you do clean these, and again, you would clean them using a combination of that white spirits that I showed you, not turpentine or paint stripper or nothing like that, and then rubbing alcohol, which is the same stuff I use to clean my regular brushes from acrylics. So that's the other myth we are going to destroy, that oils are expensive and need all this stuff. No, they're actually pound for pound cheaper, and you need less stuff because you can blend with oils. You need fewer colors. You don't have oil painting sets of 400 colors, because that's just insane, because you can mix those. Look at the colors that I'm mixing right here. Why would I need hundreds of paints when I'm making all kinds of new colors right here? Just doing it, boom, by itself. Well, not necessarily by itself. We're orchestrating this. So look at that. I'm just going to make it a little more, what the heck, we'll push it maybe more towards the bluish gray, and then on the underside we'll go back to that warmer tone. And again, all I do is I got my blending brush here. Just blend that right out. Let's go to our warm green. Again, you can see how, look at that. We can just make a whole different color of greenishness there. And remember, we are nowhere near white. We're not even at a middle tone yet. And you will see this start to brighten up as we continue on with it. And yes, you can use smaller brushes. I do suggest that those happen after you're finished with your main work, as in this kind of stuff. Yeah, let's keep on going. Let's just keep introducing more of that warm green in there. Let's go with more of the yellow ochre here. These are, if you were to look at some of my oil brusher things, and you were to see this palette, you'd say, well, he must be using oil brushers, because they're basically the same colors out there. So now here we're starting to, as you can see, we're just building up those lighter tones, building those up, blending all the whole time. The entire time we're blending. I'm going to go in even a little more with this. Even a little bit more. And what I want to do is just get some of these to a certain level, and then maybe move on to another one, because this is less about showing you from start to finish whole miniature. This is more, again, it's a taste of the army painting. This is essentially just kind of a off-white, light skin tone. Think of it as the maiden flesh of my oil paints. But now at a certain stage, I'm going to have to start thinking about, remember what we talked about, thick sticks to thin and vice versa. Because when people say, Jim, I'm using the oils and man, it wouldn't stick. It would wipe out the layer that I did before. And I'd say, so how thick was the paint that you were putting on there? Was it thinner than what was there? Or was it thicker? So here, so I don't know what's going on. Apparently there's a lot of dropped frames. Aviat is here. Oil Paints Master. Let's see, did you get their matte effect and fast? No, I don't have their matte effect or the fast dry. That's something that I'll eventually get. I just wanted to try them in this form first. So again, sorry guys, I don't know why we restarted the modem and did all this other stuff, so I have no idea why things might be, or why things are going crazy with the internet. Kathy did her stream earlier today and everything was fine. Now I do have liquid somewhere over here. Oh, I think that's what fell onto the floor. But I do have some liquid. I'm not going to try that here because, like I said, trying to minimize how much new things I'm putting out here all at the same time. So yeah, the last live session where, I don't know, I guess something weird happened with the video. When I watched it later on, I went right to the spot where supposedly stuff was going on and actually just played right through. There was nothing weird. What I think might be happening is that people who are using phones to watch it, we had this little discussion. I think the same thing happens with Twitch. That if some frames are dropped, the first casualty are people on their phones. But if people are on their computers or laptops or, I don't know if tablets are any different, tend to not experience any problems at all and everything's fine. But yeah, there's nothing I can do about dropped frames on this end, unfortunately. It just kind of is a thing. So you can see, here we go. So that's basically what we started with there. See a lot of the brown and everything. And now you can see we've got blues in there. We've got some greens. And as I said, the shiny stuff, can't do anything about it, but it obviously does not dry shiny whatsoever. So yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll do a few sessions just with this on its own, and then get the fast drying thing and the thinners and see what happens. Because right now, this will, just using these on their own, that'll give me a decent idea. I also just sponge some stuff away from the brush there. You can do that too. And you can, there's nothing that says you can't use a smaller brush and work even tighter. But look at how dark we are, next to, well, look at how dark this is. We have not gone anywhere near a lighter color yet. We have a long way we can go. Let's keep working on our warmer tones on the underside here. Oh, hey, Blex Cleric, how's it going? Yeah, well, you know how long I've been looking forward to doing this. You've heard me talking about the oils pretty much ad nauseum for weeks and weeks. And this is something I've been dying to do. I'm probably going to be using oils here. Look at what we're going to do on this wing here. For some more of my Lord of the Rings stuff, I'm going to do some of my Rohan, because paint a whole bunch of horses and guys and cloaks and everything with oils. Once again, that's going to help that go not just faster, but I think of all the interesting shades that I'll be able to get in that green. Now I'm starting to already see that this needs to be thinned a little bit. So I'm going to add not just some of the white to it to make it lighter. And I'm going to add a little bit of thinner to that, some of the white spirits to thin that down. I'm going to hold it this way so you can see what's happening. And see, that's going to be more likely to stick than if I just kept going with that same level of thickness. I might thin it down even more. The other thing to think about, as you thin it down, you're reducing the drying time kind of automatically, because as you thin it down, you're removing more of the linseed oil in there. So it's just going to dry faster because you're removing the oil. Which is, well, no matter what, with miniatures, you are going to want to use, obviously, thinner layers. I mean, you wouldn't pile it. If this was acrylic paint, you wouldn't be piling it on there so that you could see the height of it. Well, why would you do that with oils? You really wouldn't. And the nice thing is, I don't cover this. I'll just leave it like that, and probably for days it'll just kind of sit there like that. Some of the paint dries out, no big deal. I just put some more paint on there. Let's get some lights here on the face. And like I said, we're going to move around from one figure to the next. And the nice thing is, by having those initial colors as an underlayment, it means that these get influenced. All the colors that I put on here, they are influenced by what's underneath. So I think I can actually start turning up my brightness a pop here. Where else do we want to go with some of these lighter tones here? Again, I can, my thumb palette really is a palette now. It's a genuine palette. Remember, before we were working with the thicker, heavier brush. See, now we can use smaller brush. And I'm still working filbert style even with a smaller brush. Let's get some actual green in there, just so we get some color in this here, not just light and dark, but we want to have some color in it too. Now, when you glaze with oils, especially, well, kind of in any case, but especially when you're doing, say, a glaze over what's already wet oil paint, you're not going to do it the way you would with acrylic paints. You're going to do it more like basically either a pin wash or a panel line wash. And that basically just means you have your oil glaze and you just touch it to the surface. You're not moving it around, you just touch it to the surface and you let the capillary action do its thing. You don't force it, you just let it go. That can be a little difficult for people that are used to controlling their paint. So, like I said, oil paints, you will have to think of them differently. So we're going to do the same thing now on this side of our wing. But look at this. I didn't like what I had there. I just said, you know what? I'm just going to go back, clean that up. I'll blend it right out. Heck, if I didn't like what was on here, I could just take that sponge and wipe everything away that was painted. Because I can do that. Now there's another case where, yeah, I'm introducing this new color, but see how that the existing paint is going to get in there and it's going to change what's on your brush. You have to be aware of that. Just like the thickness of your paint, you have to be aware of, well, what's happening with your brush. So something like that, we go, oh my gosh, it's a disaster, it's horrible, it's terrible, till we take this brush, and it's gone. Now, if that was acrylics, you would be frantically trying to get your brush into some water, because, you know, Kathy and I, we knew the frantic splish splash of water. Oh, I'll be asked, well, I doing the Hulk in oils. I don't have the Hulk miniature, but that was, well, definitely one that I wanted to try in oils for sure. As soon as I saw people painting that, I said, oh, that'd be a good one for oils. So I think eventually we'll get one here. Now, of course, Kathy might want to take it and paint it herself. So who knows, we may need two of them. Well, I mean, geez, like what we're doing here, right? With all these different greens, warms and cools and everything else. I could certainly do that with the Hulk. So see, I'm starting to get some lighter colors down here. Let's go a little lighter here. Touch lighter. And we'll just hit the underside of that wing. And I'm just going to put the initial color in there like that. Got my blending brush here. And then we're just going to go like so. It's like an airbrush that you don't have to clean. It's an airbrush that doesn't clog. It's an airbrush that doesn't need filters and dust things. Because believe me, it's just, you won't even notice it. You may notice a little bit of a scent at first. Well, I mean, linseed oil is oil. I mean, if you spilled olive oil in your kitchen, guess what? You're going to smell, it's going to smell like olives because that's oil. There is no such thing as an oil with no smells. Now, for me, I actually do those nasty paint thinners, the really cheap ones. Those actually, it's like my glands swell up and I can't have those around. So if this stuff is gentle enough, well, it's not just for the humans, it's also for the paint. Because you use some of that cheap junk, well, it's basically going to peel the paint off of your miniature. It's going to destroy the paint. And you certainly don't want that. So I'm going to have my second brush here in my hand. Just going to blend that out. Another question people ask, they say, okay, what if the oil is dry? Then, well, what good is that? Actually, I have worked on figures plenty of times. Even that Morgul Knight series, and I think even the, what was it, series 2, my Winter Russians that I did in oils. Well, heck, that was actually a really cool thing because you saw how that oil paint in the beginning spread out so easily. See how easy this stuff is to push around. Well, that's how it is when the paint is dry underneath. So you can still remember this what I've been doing here, blending these things out. You can still do that. Let's say all the stuff underneath was dry. Well, you're still okay because guess what? You can spread that paint out and feather that paint so much, it's almost like you're blending wet into wet. I didn't think that was going to be the case because I thought once it was dry, I thought, well, okay, there's kind of no point in doing this. And then I think it was a larger figure, something like that. And I went, holy smokes, you can actually feather and blend those darn oil paints effectively over a dry base. That was cool to find out. I'm going to get a little bit of this blue down here. Now let's see if we can't get some of this red going in here. Okay. We've got lots of other colors here, but I want to get some kind of reddish tone in here. And what I'm going to do, and it looks like it's all very haphazard here. All I'm doing is just literally slapping paint on here. That's because I know my blending brush is going to come along. It's going to blend that right in there. And now it's just going to look like I glazed it or tinted it. Again, this is the cool part about oils. Let's say you've got some kind of zinchy thing, you want purples and blues and chaosy things that just change colors all over the place. Well, you saw what I just did. You would bet, Creature Caster figures would be a really good, all the neat zinchy demons and Slinish demons and such. Those would be really fun. This is what I like about the others. I can just start to work in these other colors that maybe almost seem like they're not quite right. That at first they really stand out, but then you start to blend those in, and all of a sudden they don't stand out anymore. So I just did that. Again, blending brush. This is the other thing where it gets easier too with the oils. How the heck would I even try and paint this with acrylics? With oils, what I do, I just slap some paint on there. And I took another brush that was dry, and now I'm just going to move that around, and I'm getting this instant shading in an area that was a real pain to access. Undersides of cloaks, right? Think about that. Think about how hard it can be sometimes to get your brush underneath there and actually paint that stupid cloak. Well, worry no more. Here, let's progress a little bit more with this with some lighter stuff. So let's use this off-white over here. I gotta start thinning this down more and more if we want these progressively finer layers here. And you can see what a difference that will make. Now I've got even smaller brushes that are quite literally just one hair because they're old Winsor Newton Series 7s that have seen way too many years of action and are basically destroyed. Yeah, it works really well with the oils because the oils almost act like conditioner in your hair. No, let's not go there. Let's go down here. And again, throw a little bit of our lighter tone there. We grab a blending brush and we just start to feather that together. Now oils, they're gonna take you some time to get used to. That's just how it is. You know, it's gonna be a new thing to you. You're gonna have to get that touch of, well, how much thinner do I add or do I not add? How should I just let this area dry? Would it just be easier to let this dry, or do I just keep going like this? I'm just working on some of the muscles right here and making those lighter. And remember, the key is with oils, I would not be painting one of these guys. I'd be painting, I think there's what, 6 that come in the starter set, right? Heck, I'd be painting a dozen of them. And I'd be painting them all at the same time. Now, you won't be having things like, uh, layers. You know, you're not going to have a base coating, then glazing or whatever. It's going to work differently. That's just kind of how it is. Things just work differently sometimes. So I'm going to try and pick out some of the stuff on the spine here. Hopefully what I can do, what I'm trying to do here is set this up as much as I can at this sort of level here. Then the other thing, and this is why it's important to work on multiple figures at a time with oils. Sorry. You let that, you let the paint set for a while. And for a while it could be as little as 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So actually letting the paint kind of sit there and chill for 15, 20 minutes, not the worst thing in the world. And what's the best way to not get too anxious or impatient? Because, hey, watching paint dry, not fun. Well, if you're working on 6 or 12 of these things, you'll be plenty busy. You will not have to be watching paint dry. I'm just going to, look at that. Just slopped it in there real messy like, and then along comes my blending brush. And poof. There's an even softer one. So I'm after this right now. Sorry, I have to turn it this way so I can see it. So sorry if you can't. I apologize. Here, let's do a little more of that. So again, all of this stuff, it takes seconds, really. It just doesn't take that long. I'm going to go back again to the smaller brush here. Let's see what we can do with our skull down there. So again, that is from the GW pack of skulls. I've got skulls from Secret Weapon Miniatures. Like I said, Green Stuff World has some really nifty ones. You've seen me use the flaming skulls. You saw me use, I think I have one of the books from the Green Stuff World basing collection. And again, that is a texture roller there from Green Stuff World. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make my window bigger here because we know we have a successful chat going. Now I can see some things. Now I'm going to go the other way here. I want to get some warmer stuff. Let's get some warmer colors in, and oh boy, I better get a decent amount of my thinner in there. That's the white spirits. And then you can see, look at this. And this is not even any kind of a, this is a beat up synthetic watercolor brush right here. But you see how having the thinner paint, the thinner that is, the more likely it is that it is going to cover those thicker layers. And by thin, I mean this is almost like water right now. But yet, it covers. Oh, so I see the horn is blocking the skull there, so let's try this skull where it's not necessarily being blocked by the horn. To me, painting with the oils is, it's like sitting in a lawn chair with some with this smoothie or some ice cream or Doritos or something, I don't know, but it's pretty chill. And painting with acrylics is like hair on fire. It's just run, 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 rush, rush, rush. Then you get to the oils and it's just, oh yeah, I got time. That's not going to be dry for a while. I can move on to my next guy. Sometimes I have to remind myself that yes, I'm working with oils. I do advise though keeping your water dishes away. Oh, and the other thing is if your thing is licking brushes, yeah, I definitely suggest you quit that habit because it's probably, well, it's not actually the best thing for your brushes. When I was in art school, if you're ever caught with a brush in your mouth, your brushes were just taken away. So see, look at this nice small brush here. Ah, Fruity Toots, how you going? How are you going? Why am I saying that? The Abteilungs they're really nice. They work well with the white spirits and everything. They blend real nice, and the colors that are out on the palette are pretty darn similar to my Winsor Newtons, to some of the Mig AMMO Oilbrushers and such. That's just really great news that I can look at this palette and not necessarily know that, hey, I've been using Abteilung paints this whole time. Hey, Will, how's it going? So now it's not just a smaller brush, but we have thinned down the paint, and this is kind of a hard thing for folks to absorb that are just new to this whole notion of oils. You think, well, you're thinning down the paint, that's not going to cover. Oils, the lighter oil paint is going to cover, even if it's, look at that. That paint that's going on over that is darn near watercolor consistency. I mean, not quite that wet, but yet it's covering something that's pretty dark. Another advantage of oils is that old beat up single hair brushes, all of a sudden, that one hair on that brush becomes magical. Pretty darn cool. But yeah, I was trying it out earlier today just to see what the colors are like, because I mean, you know how it is. The color that's on the label is not necessarily like what's actually inside the tube. So yeah, let's see if I've got some fun things here, like this one here. So look at this cape. See that greenishness over there? To add that green to it, all I did was just basically take some green, slop it on there, and then pushed all that stuff around. See the blending right there? It's just so much easier. Oh, Will says lizard's progressing nicely. Got some contrast paints in there. Yeah, what is it? Was I said that the new containers of Pro Acryl showed up a couple of days ago. So, well, I just did that. What was it? Dark Sword figure with the Pro Acryls, the transparents. I'm gonna do another one with actually probably the next couple of, what would you say, the Marvel Crisis Protocol and the Hellboy figures too. I'll be doing some Pro Acryls on those. There, I'm just gonna get rid of some of the junk that's on there, and we're gonna start to do some blending here. Yeah, I gotta clean that off, and then once it's clean, then it's a perfect blending brush. Now let's do something a little sneaky right here. Gotta find ourselves another one of these. And so I was telling you about glazing, right? With oils, over wet oils. I'm gonna make this go a little bit quicker than normally would, but I'm into that smoke. That's a really dark brown color here. Let's do, what are these eyes are here. And you're going to notice I just touch it and that's it. Just barely touching it. That's it. Let the capillary action do its thing. Don't force it. Don't push it around. I'm going to try and do the same thing here on these teeth. Basically, oil, when it's thinned down like this, it can almost flow in reverse. So see, all of a sudden now we've got some shadow there in the face, but it's not that standard type of glaze. So here on his beard or whatever, something similar is going to happen. And look at how, see how that gets drawn down there by itself rather than me pushing it around? Because if I push that around, all I'm going to do is have a nice big smear. And that's probably not what we're looking for. I'm just going to assume. The feet here going to be the same. See some of these, what would you call them, little spikes or whatever, spines. And this is just using that speedball stuff that I showed you. It's almost, think of it as instead of using water to thin your paints, you're using some kind of medium. So see what I just did there? I did some glazing. I mean, that is wet oil paint glazed with wet oil paint. If you had told me when I first started using these that was possible, I would have said, yeah, whatever it is you're having, I'll have a double. Lo and behold, I actually use the stuff, I try it out, and I go, holy smokes, that actually does work. What do you know? All right, let's say, here, let's do something like this. Let's say we want to do the whole spots thing or whatever. I'm going to get me a little bit of blue into this. No, let's just do it. And you think, there's no way that's going to cover wet oil paint. Well, it will once we find the right level of thinness. It will cover that. So I just put that dot right there on the wet oils. I'm going to thin it down even some more. And oh look, I'm putting freehand dots over wet oil paint with wet oil paint. Now I realize that it's kind of rotated a little bit here. That is just so the reflections are not quite as prominent. So there we have it. You can see that's on wet oil paint, all of that. It's not even dry. Oh, Will says, also been meaning to ask, do you keep the paints in the pans inside the wet palette? You would be shocked at just how much those paints stay alive, the ones in the little watercolor trays. I was shocked. I did not think they would stay alive quite so well, but they do. Who'd have thought? Now, they will get a little, what would you say, thicker if you leave them in there a couple of days. But then you throw a little water in there, even it reactivates them, and you're good. You're good to go again, no problem. So let's do something here where we're gonna go a little bit lighter now on our. Now we gotta thin that down. Almost forgot. Been preaching thin over thick. Gotta actually make this stuff thin. Oh, hey, Evil Elvis, how's it going? Yeah, it's been a while. For those that just kind of coming in, I had this all planned for last Friday. I was gonna do this, and then what was supposed to be predicted for 6 days as light rain, drizzle, turned into a several inches of deluge, and yeah, mostly semi-frozen water in the basement sopping that up. That was my Friday, so that's why I wasn't doing this. But Aviad says, I know it's overkill, but I ended up getting 24 tubes of Michael Harding oils. So pigment's overwhelming to work with. So those was it Michael Harding oils are sort of like, oh gosh, why did I just space on the name? Chimera colors of the oil world. I'm pretty sure, well, maybe the Dick Blick catalog will have those. I don't know. But there's some other oils that I want to try. Holbein, I think I want to try. I used to use, what was it? Utrecht oil paints. Yeah, I used to use those way back in the day in art school. It's worth it to try things, and if they don't work, it's not like I'm going to buy 20 tubes of it or 50 tubes of it to find out it doesn't work. I'll get a couple. I'll get a few key colors and see, do they work? Oh, he ordered some of the pans just in case I find the contrast, spread out a whole bunch. With the oils, let me see. Okay, I'm going to just set him aside, not knock him over. Let's see if I can dig this out under all the oil brushers. Now, I got this on Amazon too. So it's a set of about, well, most of them fell out. But I got this off of Amazon. It's Winton oil colors. There's about, was there 10 in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think there's 10 of them in there. They're just basic colors. I did my first several miniatures just with those. I didn't have the oil brushers. I didn't have anything else. I just had those because I didn't know there was such thing as oil brushers. I had no clue. I didn't know there was anything like these Abteilungs until even more recently. I had no idea. I guess I saw the containers, but I didn't know what they were. So yeah, that's what I started with, and I still use those things all the time. The only reason I'm using the oil brushers more and stuff is that now the advantage is the oil brushers are already, and essentially the Abteilung paints too, they are thin to the consistency of miniature paint straight out of the container. Whereas with something like those Winton oils or the Winsor Newton oils, you will have to thin those down yourself. Not a big deal because, well, heck, yeah, you saw how much I've been glazing here too. Here, let's see if we cannot. Nope, I gotta get more white spirits in there. Thin that down. Just wanna get that cheekbone going. Now remember, just a few seconds ago, well, maybe a few minutes ago, that was basically a puddle of oil paint right there because we had done that wash, that glaze. Well, call it pin wash or panel line wash. You have to be willing to do that approach to your glazing. So we're back to our really small brush there. Oh, let's see. What would you advise for thinning them? Oh, geez, you don't need a wet palette. Quite the contrary. You're going to want something that's dry. Now, I did in the beginning of this, I showed the palette that I made. It's real fancy. It's a piece of cardboard, piece of parchment paper. And the idea is that the parchment paper and cardboard, over time, they absorb some of the excess linseed oil that you really don't need. Yeah, you won't need a wet palette of any kind. And for thinning them, I'll show it later on. It's the Speedball. Speedball is basically the overall name of the brand, and Mona Lisa is sort of the sub brand, I guess, if you want to call it that. And it works really fantastic. Now let's see what else we got here. And again, I'm gonna try and do something with the Abteilungs here. So what the heck? What is this? Red primer. I'm gonna throw this out here somewhere. That's intense. And somewhere in here, let's see, do I have some? I've got a blue here. Faded navy blue. Just going to try and open this thing up here. Get at that jar, that little container of paint. Bear with me here. So that's your color there. Get some of this out here on the palette. Basically a cobalt blue, if we're thinking regular art colors again. And what I'm going to do is take some of that and some of that. See if I can't make... Here we go. I'm looking for some kind of a crazy purple type color here. And you can see that's really thinned down. Because I got all kinds of greens and stuff. Let's get something else going here. So let's keep... Yeah, here, let's go with our purples in the beard there. A nice little departure from all of the greens. And even here too, can you see? Yeah, see what I just did right there? Look at that. Nice little purple color in there. Would you be inclined to put that in if that was acrylics and you didn't necessarily have that ability to just sort of blend it in or blend it away? Would you want to mess around? So there, see that purple that's right in there? Just threw in there. Oh, Engineered to Draw is in the house. So obvious, you just don't realize how intense when you first try them. That's pretty wild. Now I think obviously, especially stuff like the... Well, if you get the Mig ammo sets and stuff, for the most part, the colors are going to be more muted, but their mecha line, now that does actually have some bright magentas. I'm sure they're nowhere near as intense as the... it scrolled past, so I don't have the name to mention anymore. I had to go back and scroll back and look for that. But yeah, see, we're starting to get now some nifty different colors working in here, but all the while I still have a blending brush here. Still haven't tried oil paints apart from washes. See, that's kind of the thing I'm trying to hopefully introduce to folks, is that they're more than just weathering paints or washes. I mean, right here I painted those dots over effectively wet oil paint, and it worked out just fine. No problems. What we're going to do now is see if we can't get a little more definition over here. Again, thinning this stuff down. We're going to go over the eyes here real quick and cut those down to size. Maybe even get a little bit of this red into the eyes. So you could potentially have two, oh gosh, what would you say, two containers or vats of this stuff, and one's more for cleaning brushes and the other one is just as I'm using it, sort of like you'd have a separate water container. One for maybe cleaning your brushes, the other just as, well, water to thin your paint and do washes with. Here, I'm going to set him aside now because we've got some things going. We're just going to let that paint sort of chill. I'm going to grab the sky here. Let's see if we can do some skin tone type stuff. Now that I got this red out here and I've got my other red, let's see if we can start to do a little bit of skin tone. Always have to think, how thick is the layer that's underneath there? And the layer that was already there, fairly thick. Eva Elvis got a leaf cutter. Yeah, well, that's actually, did we use the... No, we didn't use the leaves on these guys. Oh, I was just showing the Mordor Knights, that's it. And those guys had the leaves on them. Jeez, what did I just do? Oh, I was doing some movement trays, and there were dozens and dozens of cut leaves on them. Oh my goodness. And man, that was really fun. I just had a blast putting those on there. So again, you can see this thinner paint right here. You can see how well that covers. It's basically the opposite of what you're used to with, say, traditional miniature paints where you thin it down. Well, it's going to cover that much less. I don't want to say it's the opposite here, but it kind of is. It kind of sort of is. So we're just, what little features of the face that you can see right here, we're just going to pop those in. And this is nowhere near the lightest. I can go lighter with the skin tone also. I can definitely go lighter with it. But just like I had done with the previous guy there, I take a blending brush, pull that right out, blend it with what's there. Now, as always, got to clean that off if we're going to do that little blending trick, and we're going to do that again. But just look at how that'll cover it. Now, of course, the more you engage with the paint that's already on there, the more you are going to take away what's already there. And believe that the paint that I just put right around there, that is some seriously watery paint. I mean, that is very watery. People would be, if they could actually really just see it super close up, you'd have to kind of see it live to really get just how watery that was that I put there. And all of this is wet oil paint. Now the difference is a lot of the stuff that I did here, I want to say I put it on there 3-4 hours ago. Maybe not 3-4 hours ago. But the idea is it kind of piggybacks with what I was saying a little bit ago. That notion that you put the paint there and then you kind of let it settle instead of just working on one figure only. Instead of just one, the whole point of this is to be working on large amounts of figures at the same time. Now, granted, a Warcry warband is generally somewhere between, 7 to 9 guys. But if using the oils means you could potentially get all 7 of those painted to a high degree in one long day, that's a winner to me. Because again, where's my finished guy here? So you can see now we're building just like we did on this one. So for the Patreon page is finishing off the lizards there and getting back into my Rohan, but we are doing also Untamed beasts, and those will probably be in oils as well. We're also doing, oh gosh, I just forgot my Dull Amroth Knights. Those will be, they might be, actually, I might go acrylics with those. Actually, I might do the pro acryls and do them all in the transparent paints. Because I haven't done a whole army painting thing in just the transparent paints. So that could be fun. What else were we gonna... Oh, I've got the Aeronautica planes. I also have a whole bunch of busts and large-scale things that are also going to be in oils. I've got some creature caster figs. Boy, I don't know if people have seen the Fire Demon or not, but yeah, I'm going to go over here to my... There we go. So it's, again, done with oils. And you can see all the different green. Look at the tans that are on the green. I know you can't see my cursor as I fly over it, but look at all the different blues and greens in there. And there's your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 6 guys all painted at once. Hey, there's the leaf cutters. And again, those were done with the oil brushers. I just really love those. Now here, I got a little bit of green in that skin tone. A little bit of green into it. And like I said, I put that in there. And then we are going to grab ourselves another brush to feather that, blend that. Always got to make sure that it's clean. That's why I would definitely suggest having the gloves. They'll actually be really handy for that. So here, let's do some more of our little blending trick here. We can go much, much lighter, as you saw by the other guy. So let's do that. We're just working on our little homemade flesh tone right here. And that can go even lighter. Again, it's wet paint on top of wet paint. The key in all of this is that the wet paint that's going on top of that also happens to be much thinner. Now we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to take this, we're going to move this around. Going to move that around, blend it, fade it. I also put this red out here because I always like to have some red here. And I think I'll be able to show you on the other ones what it is that I'm after here. So I just slap that red right there. Now we are going to take that and we're going to blend that. It's so easy, just a couple of brush strokes. Where's my guy that I just had in my hand? So what I was trying to do is see that reddish pink color that I added there. That's what I was after. So you're constantly in here. I could even use this brush. So I've got a color that's a little bit more rosy now. That can go in there. Even here on his chest, on his arm. And I can go back to other skin tone here that's got a little more of the yellow engaged in it. And then again, I'm going to take away the paint that's in there. Now we're going to blend it. Just like that. Just like that. Oh, let's see. Oh, the cool models then. Oof. Yeah, color. Well, actually, I have a bunch of episodes that are. Look for ones that just says painting blue, painting gray, painting. There's painting red. Oh, there's a painting yellow, painting greens, and the idea is it just shows you, well, like the greens that I was using on that. Whatever that thing is called, the Warcry. I'm just gonna call him sort of a harpy. How to get more out of green. There's green that's almost blue. There's green that's almost yellow. There's so many different types of green. What I'd like to do is just burn and destroy every color wheel that exists, because those things, they were not helpful for me in art school, and they are certainly not helpful for just regular folks. They are just, all they do is confuse people. Basically, you must have dark to show light, and if you want other types of contrast besides just dark and light, you start thinking of opposite colors. Opposite colors aren't complicated. Red and green are opposites. Orange and yellow are opposites. Or orange and purple, sorry, opposites. And when you mix those opposites together, well, you're going to have a color that's not super bright and saturated, because you just took the opposite color and you just knocked it down like that. Now here, I'm not going to get too involved with the shadow areas necessarily on this, because remember we did all the blood effects on there. Like I said, those are going to have to wait. Those will definitely have to wait. But what we are going to do here is go back to our glazing. Actually, with the whole color theory thing, just think of, I like to think of them as color surprises. So on a green cloak, and if you've seen some of the videos, you know that I'll say, well, guess what we're going to put in the shadow areas of our green cloak? We're going to take some dark red, and we're going to do that. Here I'm doing that same sort of panel line wash here. But you notice we're just touching the brush to the figure. We're not moving it. We're just letting it sink down into those lines. It's not just for vehicles. It's for crazy bone weapons too. Now I'm going to take some of this blue. We're going to mix that in with our, I guess that's, yeah, it's called smoke. Going to really try and get this nice and watery. And we're going to do another bit of a glaze into here. So yes, you can indeed do some nice, rich, dark glazes with oils, even when they're wet. As scary as that sounds. Just using my white spirits. See, look at how it just naturally, it just gets sucked back into the crevice. They talk about the contrast paints and capillary action. Huh. It's just capillary action, oils, baby. That's where the capillary action is at. Ooh, that's darn near t-shirt worthy right there. So again, so I'm just gonna, whatever's in the brush, and then the white spirits, and that's just gonna sink down into those crevices there. And look at this, I can even help to reinforce some of the shadows in the fingers there. Let's go with an even lighter skin tone in some spots here. And as I said, if I let this have some time to just kind of cure, because you'll notice, I think, when I bring back the, or whatever the other guy is with the wings, it'll be a little bit different working on him. The paint will just have had a few minutes to settle. So here we're just hitting the knuckles here. So the oils are not just all about being messy and all that kind of stuff. You can be as precise as you want to be with them. You just want to have things like this. Again, a blending brush around. But see, all the shadow areas of the flesh tone, they have just naturally by themselves, there's a green skin tone in there. If I'm doing these guys with acrylics, and I'll show you some of the other ones, these are from other live sessions here. So the green that's in the skin tones there, well, I had to add all that stuff. That was glazes and other things that I had to do. I had to sort of superimpose, whereas here, that's more of a natural thing. And because it started out with that, the browns already. But let's say we do want to get an even more forceful green in there. So you can see I got some green on the brush. And poof, I can just drop that right in there. We clean the brush. And then we blend it in. And now I just blended in this really nifty green middle tone right there into his armpit area, which otherwise could have been kind of a pain, or maybe a lot of pain. Now I can go back into things like the cloak here, and you can see I'm keeping the colors simple. I've got some yellows out there, I got some greens out there, some blues, reds. Look at all the mixing that I can do. I don't need a bazillion colors sitting out on the palette because I can make those. And these are fantastic for non-metallic metals. I did, what was my, oh, it was on the Mountains Men. That was all very shiny armor, all in oils. I think that's series 11 or something like that, maybe. And that's all part of the Army Painter pledge level on the Patreon page. And so, oh, look at that. I just, just look at that. It's scrolling by on the screen. Yeah, so for $15 a month, well, immediately I send you an email with links to, oh boy, getting close to 270 hours worth of videos now, which is not too shabby. There's 16 different Army Painter series, and I used to have 2 going at once. Now that's going to accelerate to maybe 4 or 5 going on at once because, well, I need those armies to play games. Oh yeah, I might actually be taking the Lizardman Blood Bowl team to a tournament, not this weekend, but the weekend after this, Saturday after this. There's a Blood Bowl tournament, so I got those guys. Got to be done. Gotta get those guys done. There. Just gonna. I do wanna. I like this green. Just gonna toss a little bit of that into my midtones here on his weapon. Oh, maybe even here on the horns. Let's get a little bit into the shadow areas there. Now I'm going to go with this. I'm going to look for some kind of storm cloud blue, copper oxide blue, so blue patina, right? So most people, oh, you can only use that to do patina on copper. Well, it's working pretty nice as, I don't know, a nice light color for my non-metallic metals, I think. I'm going to grab my blending brush now again. Looks like that's on screen. And what we're going to do, we're just going to go at the edges of that. Soften those edges. It's just, I love doing this. It's so fun to be able to work back and forth and then go, yeah, don't like it, do something else. Now I'm going to actually, I don't have any regular, yep, so yellow. Nothing fancy there. I'm going to throw that over here in the corner. Now this is definitely, it's thicker than the oil brushers for obvious reasons. But I want to get, here we go, something a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. Hopefully that should still be on screen, I'm thinking. It's thinned down. Good. Remember, we just put a wash right there, and yet what are we doing? Painting right over it, and it covers. Right here, I can see the wet glaze still sitting there, and yet I could cover that with no problem. It's just, I always kind of stop and wonder at that. It amazes me that that is possible. Now, sometimes it goes the other way too. If you're just like, man, this paint's not sticking, it could be that it's too thin. And in this case, I needed to go thicker. Just want to get me some highlights here on our skull. And these are the skulls from Green Stuff World here. Nice big old ogre type skulls or whatever. Some kind of big old beastie. There, just gonna reinforce a few highlights there, but also get some color on them. I think the first time I used oils at all was on some U.S. infantry, winter infantry for a bolt action. And obviously they're wearing their coats, the overcoats and all that. We're talking grays, greens, browns of every imaginable form. Oh, sure thing. Engineered to draw. Yeah, there's actually one of my favorite ones was gray, because we're talking gray that was almost purple, gray that was almost green. And actually I was inspired to do that because I saw a certain company had made a set of 10 paints and they were just gray. I mean, they were dead gray, no actual color to them at all, and it was $50 for that set of 10. And I said, okay, that I just can't let that go. But yeah, the American guy, bolt action, winter bolt action, kind of Ardennes Forest, Battle of the Bulge, took 75% less time than I thought they were going to. And I said, there's something here. That I could not believe how little time it took. And all of that blending that you saw me do was just so easy. And then just kind of, now I can maybe start to think about things that are a little bit more of a detail nature. Here, let's get some brighter sky color in here. And again, if it doesn't cover, then you add a little bit of the white spirits to it. Oh, Will says, oh, wait a minute, I gotta go up here. Engineer, if you find some scheme ideas in a time sink, small book of interior design color schemes for room. Ah, okay. Yeah, feel free in the comments here to ask questions for sure. But if you say, hey, look, I got this from here, or this product from here, or something like that, feel free to say where you got it from or whatever. Because, well, I'd like to know. That's for sure. I'll do the same thing. Now here I'm probably going to want to go back and do one of those darker glaze type things again. So you can see both of these guys here, we're starting to, and see just those few minutes there. See, it's already, I don't want to say it's losing the shine, but before you couldn't even see anything there before. So that's just the benefit of working on a bunch of these all at once. The paint has a tendency to just kind of, it settles. That's the best way I can describe it. Now I'm going to grab me a little bit of this, and we'll make ourselves a nice light flesh tone for a couple of things like on the knuckles and such. Where are we at here? Hopefully you can see it again. I realize there's some shine, some glare that happens from the wet oils. And it's one of those things, and there's no camera or anything that you can escape from it. It's just kind of how it is. That's why I try to be as descriptive as possible. And also, that's why I try and put pictures of the finished miniatures on that, say, the Instagram thing down there at the bottom of the screen. You go there, that's where you're going to see a whole bunch of the finished miniatures from not just the live sessions, but also from the army painting. Also do dark sword miniatures. I've done a few of those in oils. Oh, you can bet that I'm going to be doing Sisters of Battle, Space Marines, all that kind of stuff. It's all going to be done in oils at some point or another. I've got some a bunch of rubric marines, and what I wanted to do there was do one unit in acrylics and then another, basically the same unit, only in oils. That's going to be a first, because while I've done individual figures for the Dark Sword pledge level, do it one in oils and then do the same thing in acrylics or vice versa. I haven't done that with a unit yet. And I think that could really be well, at least interesting for people to see, if not pretty darn informative. I think that people could get something out of that. So again, look at how that thing was darn near black. It was a really dark brown when I first started. Well, it's not quite so dark brown anymore, is it? And we'll just find a few more highlights here on the fur. Let's go back around this way, see what we've got going on the face here. If we want to, something's going to happen there with the, here, let's get a little bit of this right there. Yeah, we need some separation here. That's good. And we needed some reflection. I'm trying to reflect basically, why would this be sky blue over here when it's right next to brown fur? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So we're going to change that. Again, the advantage of the oils. I can make these course corrections so easy. I'm going to go back into my lighter skin tone again. Right there. Find my blending brush here. Make sure that's good to go. Just feather this ever so slightly. But every time I do one of these strokes here, I have to go back in, clean that up. Foliage wise, I did a few different things. Now you can just go back and look at those. The other live sessions, I think one I used the Wicked Elf vellum foliage. I used some Woodland Scenics foliage. I used some Green Stuff World tall foliage. Just doing the feet here. Somehow I'd forgotten those, and you can see that the skin tone that I'm adding here is blending into the original glaze that's there. So it gives it the greenish look that I actually need it to have, since it's so close to the gray of the stone here. So it's going to happen here too as I see how it blends in there a little bit. That is just so handy, because who wants to be screwing around painting feet? Not my most interesting thing ever. That just kind of helps that go a little bit faster. Now I'm gearing up with a little bit of that yellow color here. Let's see what we can do with this element right in here. It seems to me to be some form of bone, but I'm also I got leather straps that are in here, which means I am going to go back into my glazing mode here. Yeah, do that sort of pin one, but I'm not going to do it quite as thin as before. It's a little bit thicker here. So just like the lighter color is going to cover, so will this darker, because we've got really thin overpaint that is thicker. You just constantly have to remember that. Oh, let's see. Oh, engineers draw like the Necron Destroyer color scheme. Yeah, that was very fun. Oh, and the other thing that came with the Pro Acryls was a new container of their metallic medium. And that's something I want to give a try. I'll find something another project so that we can do true metallic metals, because that was actually really fun. I enjoyed the heck out of that. That was the Necron series. Now, I enjoyed all the army painting series. I mean, it's painting armies. I'm always gonna like that. But those, yeah, those are sometimes some really fun. Or I'm trying out something so new like that. Here, let's just get some darker stuff in here. And then I'm going to just leave that sit. See how much darker that got. I'm going to do the same thing on this. Oh, Will has to go take off. Yeah. I'll have a good one, and well, I'll catch you on the next session, and hopefully, well, let's see, what's today? Thursday, basically. I'll I'll try and do one of these either Friday or Saturday, something like that. I do also want to try. I don't know if it'll work, but I was gonna try maybe doing a Twitch session. I haven't done one of those ever, and you never know what the heck it's gonna do until you try one. So I might try one this Saturday. Either that or I just do another YouTube live. So it could be one or the other. I can't tell you right now. I'll kind of know when I know, and then I'll try and let you know. Now, I'm going to make another little wacky color here. So I'm just taking some of that, essentially kind of a cadmium yellow, mixing it with my green, because, you know, that makes a lot of sense. I just need some different colors in here. Because when you have stuff like this, or it's sort of on the similar side, yeah, I'm just going to sneak a little green in there. Oh, so 42 said there, metallics. But if I don't got pink t-shirt, yeah, if you gotta have your pinks, you gotta have your greens next to your pinks. Otherwise, it ain't metals. And I think, yeah, we on that dark sword, on the dark sword figure, we did some pinks on there. Which transparent did we use? I think we used the red with a touch of the. It must have been no, it was the transparent purple and the transparent red. That's right. Along with a touch of the maiden flesh, I believe. Here, let's make this a little lighter. And I've got, look at this, I got all these right nearby. I can just mix that in there. It's a little lighter now. I can do some, yeah, let's get a little more light on the straps there. Because if I just keep making those nothing but different forms of brown or red, they are just eventually going to blend in with all the skin tones. And that stuff, I've got to let that kind of sit. But what I'm going to do is mess around here with this little goat symbol thing here, a little chaosy type deal. Couple more, yeah. And now here, we are going to take our umber color. Let's do that with some white here. Now we've got ourselves an interesting little gray. Got a couple of different versions of it. Here, let's get a little more of that. Essentially, maiden flesh color. Let's lighten up a few of these. Now I've got my lighter green. Gonna go right into a couple of these, and a couple of these straps, not all of them. I'm even going to put a little bit of this on his hand. We're going to put some of it on the helmet. Color goes somewhere. It must go everywhere. Book of Wappel, Chapter 1. And like I said, you can, let's say for whatever reason that you can't get back to it and even the oils are dry, not a problem. You can do all kinds of nifty stuff with wet oils over dry oils. Because believe it, no one was more surprised than me when he comes back the next day or whatever and goes, la da da, I'm going to blend me some oils and do this, that, and the other, only to find out they were dry. And I go, what the heck happened here? And I thought, well, that's not handy. It just, you just have to think of the oils differently. That's all I can say. I know I've already said that before. There's not going to be the layering, the base coating. It is not going to be the case. Because if you're doing all that stuff, just use acrylics because that's what it's meant for. My favorite response to someone that says, so how do I make the oils dry faster? I just say use acrylics. Because if you're looking for paint to dry really fast, use the paint that dries really fast. Does it really make sense? Now, I guess if you're doing just one figure or something like that, they'll, all right, or a bust or whatever. But still, I would prefer to just use the medium for what it does best instead of trying to sort of artificially alter it. And whatever you do, don't be hitting oil painted figures with hair dryers or something like that. Because unlike paint that'll just dry, the oils will most likely crack or some negative result. We'll put it that way. You will get an unhappy result. And the whole point of oils is to be happy. Let's see if I can't. There we go. Again, this is wet oil paints into wet oil paints, and yet we're still able to do some pretty interesting stuff. Now, even for me, when I've been using acrylics for a while and then I switch over to oils, it can take me a little bit of, I don't want to say trial and error, but it's going to be different. It's a different feel. And even I have to do a little bit first before I've kind of got that groove back. So let's say if you're wanting to do oils, well, maybe paint some bases. Paint something that's not super consequential first, and then move on to oil paints or the more complicated stuff. We need pink, right? It ain't metal without pink. So look here, we got pink right next to some green. It's right over here. Bang, right in there. Because, pink naturally goes right next to green in your metals. As people are saying, what is he on? What is he on that he's saying that kind of crazy stuff? And if you watch some of my previous videos, it bears out, believe me. Oh, what the hell? Let's be super challenging here and let's see if we can actually, I don't even know if you can see it. I'm trying to actually paint in his eye. Right, doing the eye lid, and then his eye right there. And then over there. So, yeah, even with wet oils, over wet oils, can still do stuff like paint eyes. Now let's get some more darks working in here. Let's see if we can't. I'm going to go into we've got this little do thingy on the back, these little crazy throwing star type things. let's see. Nope, I was just checking the chat real quick. There's about a 7-second delay. So if you write something, there's going to be about 7 seconds before I actually see it. So if you're wondering why I'm not responding right away, well, I could also be right in the middle of painting something. And now we can start to slow things down a little bit. But the cool thing is, let's say that I have all these other ones here. You know, one that's like so. I could just go off to those other ones, work on those, and then come back to this one later, knowing that it's all going to be nice and wet and there for me to work on. Alright, I need to get my blending brush here. We got the underside of this hand here that's not doing a whole bunch. We need to get that working. There, that's a little better. Now we've also got, well, some of that crazy chaos musculature over here. So let's do that. I think there's a couple more here. Then I think we're just about there. I can even use that Cotman. Maybe use this as a blending brush in this area right here. I know it's hard to see, but just like I've been doing everywhere else, I'm going to blend that stuff in. And what's interesting with this, let's say you let it just kind of sit for several hours. It's not quite dry. That's actually kind of an interesting time to work with it, to add some more colors in there, because it's still workable. Here, let's get a little more of this lighter tone in there. This also, I need to get some lighter stuff here. That's a little bit too dark, too much separation there. There we go. I need to just smooth that out a bit, and then we'll get some. There we go. That's a little more like it. Here's gonna get some of my yellow in here. We got a lot of pinkishness to the skin tone. I wanted to make that a little bit warmer there. And like I said, I can just use this as a spreader, an applicator. I can use it for all different sorts of things. And it's no big deal. Here, let's get some more of our pinkish tone there. Maybe even some here on the arm. Blend some of that into more of our shadow color. And sometimes you don't necessarily blend it right away. Sometimes you're actually better off just giving it maybe 20 minutes before you try and blend it. Again, a little bit more with that crazy green color that we made. Oh, Ossiarchs, that's the other thing. I forgot about those. So that we got Warcry, Sigmar, 40K. There's going to be a ton of. Just don't be surprised if there's an Army Painter Series 21 going at the same time as Series 17 or whatever. Because all of these things, I need them all to be able to games and battle reports. Here, just dropped in a couple of the shots of that light green, and then just blend that in there. So yeah, we got some nifty, almost opposing colors there, right there in the skin tones. Gives us some nice nifty contrast. We got some highlights we're going to add on this belt buckle thing here. Just a few. Like I say, if you feel the need, if you're not comfortable necessarily working this wet into wet with the oils, you can just sort of let things dry. You don't have to keep pushing it the way I am. Because believe me, when I first started using the oils, I thought, well, I might only paint half the figure with oils and then do the rest with regular acrylics once it dries. And yes, you can do that. I've actually got some videos that show me doing that. And I thought that's what I was going to have to do with my oil paints, is do part of the figure with oils, like the rough parts, and then do all the rest just with acrylics, because it'd be too hard to get those details. And lo and behold, that was not the case. See, I'm even going to put a little bit of my pink down there. We're going to try and blend a little bit of that together. Just always thinking about my blending brushes that I've got handy. Here I'm going to try and get a few lighter tones in here too. Always have something that works as a blending brush nearby. Now, of course, I may want to put on a different glove, although it is handy having my thumb palette here, because it is a genuine palette at this point. I'm going to throw in a few more lights here. There. Let's compare him to... Yeah, this is what we had after that initial painting phase. And now you can see we've got our shading in there. Let's see if I can turn on another light here. Let's see if that casts too many shadows. Ah, that's better. Work my focus here a bit. It's pretty sensitive, to say the least. So I'm back into something that just, see, I'm trying to get this sort of strip of highlights here, this chain of highlights as I like to call it, right there on the side of my, oh, whatever that is, buckle, whatever, not quite sure. And go back into my muscles here. Gonna lighten this up, but always remembering to just kind of fade that out. Let's get some, I want that to get too dark. Now, this would be really fun on a Space Marine, I would think. On, like I said, once I can get those assembled and such, I've got some of the sisters assembled, but I just got to keep putting together more. Like I said, I got kind of interrupted in some things. Here, let's make sure I've got my screen where I can see it a little bit. I'm going to try and sneak my brush down in here. That is the nice thing about the oils, is that you can sort of get your brush into those hard to reach areas, and it just, because it kind of blends itself, it does make it a little bit easier to reach those pesky places. I needed to get some lighter skin tone right in there. We're gonna do our usual little blending excursion there. But sometimes I might only just do one brush stroke and then clean it out, then do another brush stroke, clean it out. Because remember, each time, if you're doing this wet into wet thing, it just makes sense that you are going to be picking up more and more of the existing wet oil into your brush. And all you got to be doing is just spreading that around. And that is definitely, I'm going to assume, not what you're looking for. So we got a little bit of the pink in there. Let's get some darks here. And yes, you can work back and forth. I've been working mostly, I guess I would say, darker to lighter, but even with the oils, you can go back and forth. You're not stuck with just eternally layering things lighter and lighter. Let's go back to a little more here. And let's strengthen up that line. I have to do something with it. Now, this is something I might want to just do as with the blood effects or whatever, but I'm going to see if I can't, like a little scar right here. We'll just hit that for now. That helps. Again, the hand, I want to have some of that. Basically, ironically enough, it shows some of the capillary, some of those blood vessels that are in your hands. So yeah, a little bit more of that pinkish color. Again, looking for these type of places. And here, the feet are too light. I'm going to knock those down. Here, I'm going to go back to my greenish color here. Hit a couple of these straps there. Let's go into mode where we maybe find some more of our highlights again. Some things like the little spines here. And they're just all over the place. I mean, they are just everywhere. Their spines or teeth or whatever. But if you want to see the blood effect, like this, I've got, again, a couple of end screens that'll show you. And it's a combination of Green Stuff World, actually I use some of the GW, what is that? What's the blood? Blood for the Blood God, right? Yeah. And then even some Steino Res, the Ghost Tint there. As I try and squeeze as many different things as I can into these, I realize that it can be a lot to absorb, and I'm not just isolating one little thing where, here, I'm going to just show you in this video just this one little area of non-metallic. That's just not how it works, because as you can tell, we're working on the whole figure at the same time. Let's see what I can do for, yeah, I just needed to get a few lighter things in some of these areas here. Now I'm going to get me some lighter highlights there, but I've got to thin this down. Like I said, if I find that the paint just doesn't want to stick, the most likely culprit is that it's either too thick or too thin. It's one way or the other. It's got to be one or the other. And you've got to either make the paint thicker or do just the opposite and make it thinner. Now I don't want to go too crazy, but some of these highlights here. Now we've got to do something over. I think I'm going to go back first with some darks in here. There we go, getting a little separation. And now I'll go back in with some of my crazy green color. Now you can bet if I'm doing something like the ossiarchs and oils, well, if I'm doing stuff that's bone, I'm going to utilize this to make sure that I get all those nifty colors in the bones. Some grays, maybe even some muted purples or whatever. Just lots of crazy stuff like that. Just like with skin tones, right? Everybody's that the holy grail is to get greens and grays and all that other kind of wacky stuff into skin tones. I can see in the bone there's some green there. There's some even almost a bluish gray. Here, let's do that. Yep, I'm just gonna throw a little bit of that in there. It sounds crazy, but when people look at it, they'll just say how rich in color it is. It's not boring. And like I said, I'm not going to get to my foliage on this for obvious reasons because, well, glue on wet oil paint is really not. I think I did it a couple of times where I really had to push the envelope for a game or something like that, but it's not something I want to do if I don't have to. So I'm just going to do a little bit of my blending here. Let's take a look at our guy with the wings. Maybe we'll go back to doing a few of those spots again, and as if I don't like them, yeah, I just wipe them away. Okay, I think you can still see that. Now I gotta thin this down even more. The principle is the same, because you saw me doing a lot of, say, light over darker colors. So we're going to do just the opposite here, but see, look at this. Basically able to do, freehand, wet oils onto wet oils. Very cool. And with the spots themselves, you can see that on one part, the spots are a little larger, and then they get a little more spaced out, a little bit smaller. So again, no spots here. We're doing some spots. Now, I suppose the other downside to the oils, let's say if I'm doing a large figure or something like that, with acrylics or even a vehicle, if need be, I can grab the figure, just kind of cradle it in my hands. I think you can see that is not really something you want to be doing with wet oil paints. There, look at that. I'm just going to do let's do the other wing here real quick. And for folks still around, remember you can always go back to the beginning and see how all of these things kind of started out. I will try to have in the description as many pertinent things. Heck, I might even, if I can, I'll try and put the link to some of the different oil paints that I've gotten. The white spirits from Speedball. I just get those on Amazon, but you can get them at Michael's and even Hobby Lobby and the Dick Blick catalog and such. I can't necessarily do that right away, but I'll do it as soon as I can. There we go. So see, we got ourselves some nifty spots going there. And it wasn't that long ago that we were still blending all the paint that's underneath here. You're just using our giant blending brushes and doing that. Here, let's maybe start to think about getting some darker colors. Again, I'm just taking some blue, some of that smoke there, the dark brown. And now almost gonna, again, do something that's a little bit more like oh, Kamitrion is in the house. Good morning. Yeah, sorry, again, wasn't able to do the session on Friday. There's just all kinds of crazy stuff going on here. This is actually what I had intended to do. It was all set up for this, but stuff happened and I wasn't quite able to do that. So I'm extra glad to be doing that now. And boy, I can really see here. Wow, that if I was to touch this, the whole thing would get wiped away. But the paint is more settled than it was before I went off and did the other guy, the Untamed Beast guy. So I'm just doing some of these glazes here. So hopefully the new year has been okay for you. No, not too many weird things going on. Yeah, see how nifty little colors we're able to get into those skulls there. Let's see what we can do here. Gonna go back in. Got this yellow now. And what I'm hoping to do is take some of this. Now it is thicker. This is definitely thicker than, say, the oil brushers. So it's closer to Winsor Newton. Now, I don't know if that means it's going to be a longer drying time. We'll find out. You just don't know until you try. Have no idea how this is going to, exactly what's going to happen here. But sometimes you just have to try the new things and see how it goes. Now, one thing I typically do, and for those that have seen my oil painting stuff, you know that I use the Mig AMMO Oilbrushers and the regular oil side by side. I don't just use one or the other. And what happens is that the Mig AMMO Oilbrushers have a tendency to make the regular oil paints actually dry a little bit faster. You can see now I'm even starting to work in a little bit of yellow into the skin tones here. Let's blend that out a bit. So again, getting some more different tones. Now we're going to work back into some contrast here. Now Eva Elvis is contemplating the Gopher from Bones 4 and say a bunch of crankbait videos. I've used a frisket to paint fish scales. Definitely not. Actually, I'm not even sure what a frisket is. You would have to tell me, because I genuinely don't know, actually. Yeah, let's make these, yeah, let's make those darker. I'll do a little bit of semi-glazing here. There we go. Maybe even into his beard there. Let's see if we can't lighten up these little spikes here on this side, because we've done the glazes over the top of those. Yeah, it just, like I said, you kind of work your way back and forth. Some glazing here, some spreading around of the paint there. Yeah, let's do a little more with this blue. Mix it with that brown. I'll get some of this into his feet here. So yeah, what we did, this was the first one that I started to work on right here. And the idea was to just show what those initial early stages are like, and also we'll try on the new Abteilung oils. Let's just get one of these out here. And there you go. You can see there's a lot of shininess on that, so a little hard to see it. Oh, I thought they meant frisket film, like masking out the scales. Oh, this is the Chaos texture roller. I don't know if I have any pieces of it that are intact. No, but it's part of the Green Stuff World texture sheet. Let's see. The Army Painting series, I think was it series 9 or no, series 10. That was the Corn Berserkers. I used that same texture roller on that. So if you can check that out. So this is kind of a grayish blue here. I'm just going to slap that right in here just to get a little difference. Because we got so many, we got those warm colors working. I wanted to get some difference there. You can see how quickly it doesn't take long for all of a sudden. Look at that. I'm going to grab my little blending brush here again. Just spread that out a little bit. Again, clean that off. Spread it out. So you got some subtle things happening there. Let's get some lights on this beard here. Now I've got, oh yeah, actually it'll sit a little bit better on this, I think. Here we go. So this is that same texture roller. See, it's got all those little runes on it. You see some more over there. So this one, it might be another oil painting one here, or it might be the transparent paints, but this is probably another live session that I'll do. But again, that was that same texture roller as this one right here. I'll get me a drink here, 1 second. Let's see if I can't pick out a few areas here on these wings. Bring these out. Well, these would be fantastic for pterodon wings or whatever. To be able to get a bunch of different colors blended. So much easier, so much quicker. Throw a few of those. Get my blending brush, do that. Here, let's blend a little bit of this now. Some of that's still our initial glaze colors there. There's some of that. Remember the flesh tone that we brought over from our Untamed Beast guy that we threw into here. And then we've got the crazy purple color. Let's mess with that some more here. Just mess a little bit more with this. And hopefully I wish it was easier to see, but alas, it's the nature of the beast. Yes, ironically, that it is a little bit tougher to see. There's just going to be reflections. So I think we just got some pink in there now. So many more colors working their way into this. Thinning it down. Because that's how it's going to cover. If it's thick, it's just gonna. It won't deposit any color there. It's just gonna either smear what's already there, or it's just not gonna cover it. It won't stick on there at all. That's just kind of how it works. And I know that sounds so weird. And it'll probably be one of the most difficult aspects if you're trying to do this, especially for the first time. That is the one area where you really have to change your mindset, and that could be difficult. Although I've seen other folks, once they try the oils and they have this opportunity to just to be able to blend over a lot of figures in one sitting, and it's really tough for them to go back. I mean, for me, when I'm working with the oils and I get that groove going, that's like the last thing I want to do is be picking up acrylic paints again. Oh, Fruity Toots has to head out for now. But thanks again. Well, at least, fortunately, this time we didn't miss this one, and I will let you know when the next one's going to happen. But thanks again. I'll catch you later. Here, let's see if we can't. There we go. So I'm just trying to build up some intensity on the face there. Let's see if we can't get these eyes even a little bit brighter. So send it down. Send it down. We're going to try and get right into here. Yep, it works. Who'd have thought that many layers of wet paint? We're just going right over the top of it. Just right over the top of it. So let's see, right now, yeah, there are 3 different series, Army Painter series done with the oil paints. Some show non-metallic metal, some are way more, well, they're historical, but also a lot grittier. And then you've got the Mountains Men in oils, and that is your essentially sort of a sky earth non-metallic metal. So yeah, these are pretty fun, these guys right here. You know, I need to get some of this reddish brown elsewhere. We're going to put that here. We're going to get a little bit of a glaze of that going. For our skull down here. Oh, Evil Elvis asks, what do you think of the green stuff world? Let's just, I'm not going to comment on that here because I saw that whole thing happen sort of like the person who's on the plane and watches the bomb explode. That was my front row vision of that. And all I can say is that people might want to think of in their quest to destroy Green Stuff World that first of all, it's a very small company from Europe. It's a family-run company. English is not their first language, probably not their second language. And in the quest to ban and cancel and destroy them, there are the people like me and all the other folks that were writing me messages on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day going, well, Jim, if these guys go out of business, what do we all do? We have classes that use their stuff. I've got commissions that use their stuff. What am I supposed to do when these people get their way and wipe out Green Stuff World? And I will just say that was one of the most unfortunate things I've ever seen in the miniatures industry, to the point where I almost started thinking in my head maybe I should find another industry, because I did not like what I saw. And I'm just going to leave it there, because that was not it wasn't a very fun New Year's Eve for them, and it was certainly no fun for me when I had to think about, okay, so all of the painting tutorials and all of the Adepticon classes that I have going that use a lot of Green Stuff World materials, if they no longer exist, well, nobody else makes that stuff. So what the heck am I supposed to do? And I'm pretty sure that not a single person gave any thought to the ripple effects as the cries went out to ban them and destroy them. So these things seem to pop up in the miniatures industry every so often, these sort of things. And it's like somebody just set off a massive ton of fireworks inside a kerosene factory, and then they die away before the next one happens. And each one of these seems to get more aggressive and more nasty. Yeah, unfortunately, YouTube, I mean, we won't even get into Kappa and all that other kind of stuff, but there was a point, what was this, in November, where, like everybody else, I had to start thinking, well, do I shut down my channel? Do I put everything as unlisted? Do I not do live sessions anymore? And as it turns out, it was all speculation and half-truths and quarter-truths and one-eighth truths. And there's been absolutely zero effect on my channel, and I don't know anybody else who has any effect on theirs, except the people that I know who, in November and December, either took out their channels or put everything to unlisted or did stuff based on what they thought was going to happen or what the rumor mill said was going to happen. Yeah, so when the internet says something, it's not necessarily going to be true. And YouTube was messing around with me. All of my numbers that I kind of rely on every day, well, those went really spastic for about a week and a half. Who knows what the heck they were doing. But yeah, YouTube, they didn't have to go towards the option that they went. That's for sure. Let's see. Oh, HL17. Yeah, that did not make me super happy. We'll just put it that way. Because I had kind of a different perspective, like I said, from where seeing the people that were involved with it and stuff in a different forum. So, I apologize for going on about that, but that is something that's really been sticking in my craw. I was not amused by that. And the other thing is that oil paints are so freaking relaxing that I might just I can just keep doing this and go, oh look, it's 6 o'clock in the freaking morning, because this is just so chill. I'm just going back and forth here. Here, let's get some more of that nifty almost like a Payne's gray style dark now. Like that. Oh, we need to get some lighter colors in here too. And I just happened to see this pinkish gray color sitting here, so I'm going to grab that because, hey, pinkish gray is a natural lighter tone for something that's bluish green underneath it. Oh, speaking of that, we got some lighter version of it here. Blending brush. Like I said, I got a couple of different sizes of these. So you can see we got some more of the yellowish gray. Then we got some more of the bluish gray there. Let's go more towards the yellow right in here like that. Oh, let's go another step lighter. And then on these spines here. Yeah, those were not the easiest things to try and file the mold lines off of. That's for sure. It has been interesting getting used to the new style of GW figures. I've been putting together tons of them. I've put together actually a fair amount of the Ostearix already. So you'll probably see me do it some of those on here, just as kind of finding some familiarity with them before I go ahead and do the army painting series, because I want to make sure I have a theme that I really like. Yeah, let's get a little more of our lights in there. There's also some other things here that I've got. Oh, not that. Where is it? I think this is it. This moss. Yeah. So this is something that I want to also try. Now I have no idea. Oh, what the heck. I'm just going to open this thing and see what it looks like inside. Of course, we've got one of these on there. Now that does have a, wow, that has a fragrance to it. Okay. But I'm just going to grab some of it and throw it out here. Cover that up. And we'll just throw some of it on our, right here on our stone. See what happens. See if it dries a little different. Maybe it dries more matte. Let's get some over here too. Maybe even on the base here. I need another color in there besides just that anyways. That gives me a nice little difference. Oh, let's throw a little of that over here. Yeah, that's kind of nice. Maybe even there. So let's get back to these horns here and trying to make these a little bit darker towards the ends. Maybe something similar here. Then maybe a bit here. I'm going to take some of the white and that sort of bluish brown that I made. It's going to be more of a gray now. Unfortunately, there's some stuff in the way, like all of those wings. Oh, the moss enamel product. Yeah, I've used, I think, is it Vallejo that makes it? Yeah, I think I've maybe used the Vallejo, what do they call this, the environments or something like that. I used their moss. Actually, I have a video with that. That's probably the goblins. Yeah, that's the goblins, or I was painting their bases with it. Yeah, pardon me, I'm gonna get me something to drink here real quick. And yes, that's going to be right in the microphone, which is right by my face. Let's get ourselves a little bit of an edge here. Probably do some more of my little glaze type things in this too. But you can take this, like I said, as far as you want. Most people, I would think they'd be delirious if they could show up to their game. Look at the difference here. Again, it's not dry, but because it's had a chance to kind of settle and sit there for a few minutes, all of a sudden you're able to see that a little bit easier. Oh, it's the only decide between that or just blend green oil paint directly without the thinner. Yeah, what was I using? Oh, it was the mud effect stuff. And it wasn't until I saw some older YouTube videos and I went, wait a second, that's just oil paint and plaster. That's all it is. It's not mud effects. That's oil paint and plaster. And then it made sense why my heavier plaster was drying. No matter how much I sealed the jars, every single one of my heavy plasters dried up because, well, it was heavy plaster. So that's what I did there. I just lightened that up a bit. Here, I'm going to take some red there on the end of that. Just cause. So yeah, I actually looked into getting a few different types of plaster. Like Durabond 90, that was going to be my real heavy mud. And the Durabond 45, that was going to be kind of my mid-level mud. And then I was going to use the Durabond 20 for the lightest mud. That would have been fun. I may still get a chance to try that. So here, we're going to just blend this right in. So look at, I think you can see that. Yeah, I can see that reddishness there that got into that. Now, speaking of time, it's actually, well, it's 4:40 here. I just want to thank everybody that was in on the stream here, and if you wanna be able to join and get the notifications, don't be like me and just hit subscribe. Be like the smart person that hits the all notifications bell. Because if you're like me and only hit the subscribe thing, then a lot of times you just don't get the notifications, or at least not in a timely fashion, because I've learned that hard lesson myself. And I always, like I said, most of the live sessions, they're always gonna be a different medium or a different genre. One time it'll be oils, next time it might be the Pro Acryl Transparents. Next time it could be GW paints. Because not everybody can get different things, so that's why, say like with the Reaper paints, that's my favorite go-to acrylic paint. Not everybody can get that. So don't be surprised if you see me doing something radically different in the next session from this, because that's just kind of how it goes. So you can see I'm just trying to get some lighter touches on this blade here. But now we got to go the other way. We got to get some darks on that. And I will most likely do some blood effects on this. Heck, I might even just save that. Might do a bunch of these and then just save the final effects for another live session or something like that. But again, everybody, I just want to show you how we started out. So essentially like this with those initial glazes. Oh, just be careful when you mix the material, enamel and mud, plaster, natural material. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, you don't want to get too much water into that, or well, I guess liquid. So here you can see we took it a little bit further. You can see we're just starting to blend on the cloak there. And then we work our way towards stuff like this. We can do freehand. We can do all kinds of fun stuff. So thanks again to everybody that joined in, participated. I will see you again as soon as I can on the next session. I'll catch you later.